Yep, it's right there.
Where?
It's in that packet right there.
Good morning and welcome to Thursday, October 8th, Kent County Board of Commissioners meeting. We are back to in person, so welcome everyone. It's great to see your faces, half your faces. The mics for housekeeping are going to be permanently on, so just know that. You don't have to toggle on and off. So you might want to be mindful of that. And we will call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners Skaggs.
Here.
Wooden.
Here.
Womack.
Here.
Volkowski.
Present.
Talon.
Here, but not in the room.
Did I hear it here?
Yeah.
Talon?
Yes.
I am here, but not in the room.
Zoom.
Oh, yep. Thank you. Commissioners Hennessy.
Here.
Melton.
Present.
Sparks.
Present.
Teal.
Here.
Breivy.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Voorhees. Commissioner Voorhees. Commissioner Sponstein.
Here.
Vice Chair Steck.
Here.
Commissioners Jones.
Here.
Morgan.
Here.
Antor.
Here.
Vonk.
Here.
Chair Bolter.
Here.
Well, that was much easier. Madam Chair, you have 18 members present, 1 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are on to invocation, and I'll call on Commissioner Wooden to come up to the podium for the invocation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am excited to bring to invocation the Reverend Molly Bosher, the rector at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church within the 18th District, to offer invocation this morning. She will be participating via Zoom.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. Let's all bow our heads. God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. We thank you for these, your servants, who are working to do their best for Kent County and for the city of Grand Rapids. You know the world we live in. You know our differences. You know this political climate. You also know this place, one that we love with all our hearts. We pray that today, Kent County and Grand Rapids, this your city, and that your goodness may be with us as we make decisions that honor you. Help us to consider all our citizens, and in the midst of this season, give us a spirit of unity and hope. May your Holy Spirit be with us as we make hard decisions and as we struggle to find a way to bring your kingdom to this city. May our hearts be filled with your love and your holy imagination. Give us discernment and wisdom. Help us to make good decisions, decisions that are full of goodness and mercy. May we listen deeply, and may your spirit of compassion be among us. May we always remember that we are your children. Be with us today. In the name of your Son, Jesus, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Wooden. Thank you to our guest. All right, we are on to special order of business today, and I'll call on Anne Marie to give us an update on First Steps Kent. I believe she's joining us virtually as well.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Bolter. To get started, we would like our board co-chair for First Steps to say a few opening remarks. So I'll ask Kate Walters to do that now.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you, albeit virtually. This has been an interesting year. We certainly got off to a great but late start. And then we all know what happened. So I've been pleased and incredibly impressed with both the First Step staff and managing through the COVID and being flexible, as well as the many grantees that we've dealt with. I hope that you're proud of the work that we've done, and I'm excited about the work that's coming. So thanks for giving us an opportunity to fill you in on what we've been up to. Lou? I don't know if Lou's still here. He was gonna have to jump off.
We do have our other First Steps Board Chair, Lou Chamberlain, on virtually as well.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry, I had trouble unmuting. I would echo everything that Kate has said. I think great work is being done by First Steps. We appreciate the County Commission's support in doing this work. This is important work. This is work that we all believe in deeply. And I'll turn it back over to Anne Marie to explain it a little bit further. Thanks.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Kate. And good morning, everyone. I just wanted to make sure that our slides are up for everyone to see. Great, thank you. So to get started, we'll go to the, well, this is the first slide. Just honored and pleased this morning to be able to update the county on the Ready by 5 early childhood millage. And we can go to the second slide.
Anne Marie, can you hold on a second? Okay, here we go. Thank you.
Sure, thank you very, very much. So the slide that's up right now may be familiar to many of you. It is what we used early on before the November 2018 ballot to make our case for early childhood. First Steps had conducted a gap analysis of the early childhood landscape here in Kent County to illustrate where the gaps were for our youngest children and their families. And we put together the gap analysis based on population, and looking at the numbers, we know that we have somewhere under 45,000 young children under age 5 in Kent County. And in those demographics, we know that 17,000 of those children have public health insurance, and more than 20,000 of those children are economically disadvantaged. Knowing some of those numbers really compelled us to try to work and lead the effort to make sure that there was dedicated funding available for our youngest children and their families. We can go to the next slide. So in November of 2018, due to the Kent County Board of Commissioners' very supportive, support to put the ballot, the measure on the ballot, sorry about that. And it was overwhelmingly approved on November 6th, generating 5.7 million a year, approximately for 6 years. The contract between First Steps and the Kent County administration was signed in May of 2019, and it made First Steps the fiduciary of the millage. We can go to the next slide. So it's really important to highlight here the goals of that millage. First, to increase early learning opportunities and child health by increasing access to quality programming for expectant mothers and children ages 0 to 5 in Kent County. Also, to increase cross-sector collaboration between providers to ensure families are being connected with needed services in the form of a warm handoff through referrals and data sharing. And lastly, to reduce outcome disparities across specific target populations by ensuring culturally relevant services that are inclusive of all populations, as well as supporting programs that serve traditionally underserved community members based on their racial or ethnic background, zip code, or other cultural factors. Let's go to the next slide. So we established a millage process, and currently we are on the third request of proposals. So that third round is happening now. We have put together a resident proposal review committee. We're very proud of that committee and the work that they do. There are two Kent County Board of Commissioners on that committee. We have support from Kent County administrative staff. We also have 4 parents and a First Steps Kent commissioner represented, as well as an early childhood expert. So the way the process works, the requests for proposals are reviewed by that allocation committee, that resident proposal review committee. And then the next step is approval by the First Steps Kent Commission. And the final step is approval by the Kent County Board of Commissioners. And so far, there have been no changes from the initial recommendations to the final approvals. We can move to the next slide. So in these allocations, the first round was for $2.4 million for outreach and navigation. We had determined through our gap analysis that, and actually other surveys of our community, that navigation presented several challenges and barriers for our families to actually access services. So it was important for that first round to knit together the navigation and outreach. These services connect expectant parents and parents of young children with information for support services in the community. We can go to the next slide. Now this allocation for home visiting, the definition is that trained providers such as nurses or parent educators regularly visit families in their home to offer a variety of home-based education and support. What I will say is later in our presentation, we will talk to you about how we have had to be flexible and adapt with our service providers during this time of COVID-19. But for home visiting, the allocation is awarded nearly totaled $3 million. We can go to the next slide. There were also allocations for healthy development, and healthy development is programming that supports parents and caregivers in obtaining knowledge and skills to support their child's health, development, and early learning. 5 healthy development service providers were awarded a total of $1.7 million. We can go to the next slide. We also had allocations for what is evidence-based play and learn communities. Facilitated playing groups guide parents and caregivers with young children through group and individual play activities that model learning opportunities and build understanding of child development. 5 play and learn communities, those service providers were awarded a total of over $1.5 million. And then allocations were also set for healthy and safe homes. Environmental health hazards in the home can contribute to lead poisoning, asthma, unintentional injuries to young children. 3 agencies will address identification and education around these issues and have been awarded a total of just over $1.4 million. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to First Step staff Heather Boswell, and she'll take you through the next several slides.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Can everybody hear me? Good. Good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to be here to share more about the Ready by 5 Early Childhood Millage. As Anne-Marie mentioned, as awards are allocated and agencies are awarded funds, contracts are put in place and the monitoring of services begin. So how are we doing this? We are building monitoring processes around the use of data. So data is being required from all Ready by 5 agencies. This data is submitted in standardized data fields for all children and expectant mothers served. This will allow First Steps to compare program to program and service to service. So we have established a partnership with Kent County Health Department. Data is securely sent from the service partner to the health department where it's stored. And then Kent County Health Department sends a de-identified data set to First Steps Kent for data tracking. So we are currently, literally, as I'm speaking now, we are finalizing an internal data system to pull reports from this data submitted. We're working with expertise provided by the Johnson Center for Philanthropy at Grand Valley State University to document the data collection process and work to validate data in each report that comes from that system. So we will not only be able to share the number of children served, but services by location and break information out by demographic features such as child age, race, ethnicity, and other characteristics. So next slide, please. So data is also being used to promote performance among providers. We have adopted an outcome rate card payment structure for a few select contracts. The idea of this rate card is to transition contracts from a sole fee for service contract to procuring for shown outcomes. The purpose of this enhanced payment structure is to promote services that focus on evidence and outcomes, promote measurement, and reward organizations that successfully move the needle in community priorities. So some of these priorities that we have include increasing the frequency in which young children are screened to identify developmental concerns early and make sure that they are successfully referred to interventions, support healthy births, increase the frequency of which children are screened for lead poisoning, especially in areas where lead poisoning is common, and show a program's impact and effectiveness with parent education and support. So programs that currently qualify for this include the programs that were funded during the 2019 RFP under home visiting, healthy development, and healthy and safe homes, which is the lead, focusing on the lead issue here with young children in Kent County. So next slide, please. Data is also being used to evaluate program effectiveness. So this past summer, we established the Ready by 5 Evaluation Advisory Team that includes data expertise from the Kent County Administrator's Office, from Kent Intermediate School District, K-Connect, and Calvin University Center for Social Research, in addition to First Step staff. So the goal is to evaluate the impact of services that are funded, First Steps Kent's effectiveness as an administrator of millage funding, and we are working on a way that we can show a return on investment estimate somehow. An estimate of how funded Ready by 5 programs contribute to the future cost savings and or social benefit of family and children. So this will include linking participation in one or more of the Ready by 5 funded programs with later educational achievement outcomes. The achievement outcomes will likely be the scores from each child's kindergarten readiness assessment. This is otherwise known as the KRA, and this is information that is housed at Kent ISD. The KRA is ideal as it's a developmentally appropriate assessment tool designed to measure school readiness of incoming kindergartners across 4 domains, including language and literacy, mathematics, social foundations, and physical well-being and motor development. But just a note, in this COVID world that we're living in right now, the KRA will not happen because of the remote learning happening in many of the school districts this fall. But there is a plan for the assessment to resume in 2021. Next slide, please. As we have mentioned, COVID-19, like everything else in the world, has had its impact on programming. How Ready by 5 has been responding. Service providers have been authorized to offer services virtually and over the phone in lieu of the typical in-person programming. We are encouraging cooperation between service providers. One example, we are convening our outreach and navigation program leads to identify opportunities for collaboration with communication and marketing strategies during this time. Additionally, to ensure programs stay connected and continue to serve families, we have authorized service providers to invoice under special rates during this time. In addition to providing services virtually, service partners may invoice for additional outreach to families. As many of the programs are new, many of them, their contracts went into effect March 1, just a few weeks before we started to see the impact of COVID and sheltering in place. These programs were hiring new staff. So there's a lot of new professionals that have been hired by programs. And we offered a rate for staff to participate in professional development specific to their new jobs during this time. And in response to hearing from families, we heard that activity ideas to do while everybody was at home were wanted, but supplies to carry out the activity were a barrier. So we created a rate that allowed for organizations to develop at-home kits that included information, age-appropriate activity ideas, and supplies to be sent or delivered to families in Kent County. So next slide, please. So during these challenging times, we are working to continue to understand the changing landscape. First Steps Kent partnered with Johnson Center for Philanthropy at Grand Valley State University. The Johnson Center reached out to all programs funded by Ready by 5, as well as about a dozen individuals served in programs. So a few things that we learned was COVID-19 is being taken seriously by parents and caregivers, and our service providers are responding, as they mentioned, following precautions such as wearing masks, wiping down surfaces, doing the hand washing, hand sanitizer, and following social distancing measures. And there is a willingness by all of our service partners to continue these measures, taking into consideration families' comfort levels at this time. Parents specifically mentioned struggling with bills and being unaware of available services. Needs were expected to increase if COVID-19 gets worse and businesses and schools close sporadically or move entirely online. So virtual tutoring, childcare, and household essentials were most commonly mentioned as anticipated needs. And the other thing that we learned due to safety concerns, there was mostly consensus that parents and caregivers would not intend in-person playgroups until businesses and schools are more fully open. So we took this information and just determined a plan of action to respond. As we noted in the previous slide, outreach and navigation, we have been convening them to determine additional shared strategy for reaching parents at this time.
Heather?
Yeah.
We're butting up against 9 o'clock and I want to have plenty of time for commissioners to have questions. So I'm just wondering if we can proceed through the next couple of slides.
Sure.
Thank you.
Heather, sorry to interrupt, but we should probably skip the video.
Yep, we can do that. So let's skip to the next slide. So we just wanted to mention that, as Anne-Marie mentioned, there has been 10 million allocated to programs. We have seen a very slow trickle back in terms of services returning back to typical levels of service. We have definitely seen more services among our outreach and navigation and our home visiting providers. We are also somewhat more optimistic. As of August this year, we saw 96% of our programs are invoicing at some level, while still very low. There is some activity. So that's good, but there's still a ways to go is the reality here. And the next slide. So we just thought we would mention next on the horizon. We are currently in a funding cycle. We are focusing on services that offer creative solutions to service delivery. We have $2 million that we are allocating for services for next year, 2021, and $2 million for 2022. We're focusing on boosting the number of programs that have a focus on healthy birth outcomes, including the funding of a lead agency to reestablish the Fetal Infant Mortality Review Network here locally in Kent County. We will fund service providers offering translation and interpretation services. And we have also issued an RFP requesting response from programs that have the ability to operate during COVID times as they address physical distancing and parent preferences to have alternatives to in-person support. So with that, we can move on to questions.
All right. Do we have questions today? Might take me a little longer to scan the room. Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Anne-Marie and your staff for all your hard work. And thank you to Kate and Lou for your continued work and oversight in this critical issue. Definitely looking forward to future years when the data starts becoming available so we can see how the projected impact is actually playing out in our community. Though I have great confidence that we will see a great return on this investment. My question though this morning is higher up in the sense of, can you talk a little bit more, Anne-Marie, about the collaboration with K-Connect and how you all are working since K-Connect is 0 to young adulthood? Is there an overlap or how are you working together?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that question. We work closely with K-Connect. As you may know, we share an office suite with them. And part of that came out of all the meetings that we hold together. It just made it a lot easier for us to meet. Something that we have done in the past is worked on gathering data and making sure that we had shared indicators. And really, to start off with the gap analysis work, we made sure that K-Connect staff were at the table as we established that, so that we were sharing proxies and indicators, so that, for instance, First Steps wasn't looking at different proxies or indicators, and then K-Connect was looking at another set that weren't compatible. We have tried to make sure from day one that everything that we're looking at is compatible. And as you mentioned, Commissioner Bukowski, K-Connect goes from prenatal all the way to college and career. And so when we look at the segment on the continuum that First Steps is part of, which is prenatal to kindergarten, that we have not only shared indicators and work, but we've worked together to support their dashboard on their website, on the K-Connect website, with the information that we have. And we will continue to do this as we go forward.
Thank you.
Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. Good morning, Anna Marie. Thank you for your report. I join Commissioner Bolkowski in thanking you and your team for getting us off on a hard and good start. Also thanking my colleagues, Commissioner Sparks and Skaggs, for sitting on that allocation committee. Having sat on the senior millage allocation, I know much work it can be, and I can't imagine being the first committee to do it, to have to design it as you go. So a couple of things. As I started adding up the numbers, you have 5.7 coming in and you're spending 10, 12 million. So I thought that's phenomenal. But I reminded this is a 2-year contract that you're dealing with in all these cases. But I suspect, as with senior millage, you're getting some underspend with your contracts. What's the strategy for dealing with the underspend? Because it's not just as easy as going out and now spending it. You have to kind of find a way of effectively allocating that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and that is exactly right. I don't think in other times we would be facing as much of a challenge. I'm sure there are always instances of underspent, but in these times we have had to be adaptable and flexible. And I know Heather referred to the work that the Johnson Center did to help us really learn from providers as well as parents and families as to not only what the need is, but how we can go about it differently to meet the needs during the pandemic, during different times when providers aren't able to provide the services in a traditional sense. And so that's what we were talking about with new training, but also being flexible and adaptable to this new virtual world, and really changing how we look at the way billing happens. So we've been on top of it. We know that it continues to change, but that is where we are right now.
And just to follow up, acknowledge you for going into the performance-based contracting. I think that's an exciting and promising methodology. And then finally, we know that there's a lot of data accumulated, a lot of reports going to be generated. Can you just tell us a little bit about what kind of reports we might be seeing here on the performance of this programming, and how frequently?
Well, we're building that infrastructure now, but we are actually really pleased because being able to look at it from starting from scratch and knowing that in the past, there have been instances where data was collected and then for some reason, it wasn't compatible. We weren't able to show things. And I'm talking about First Steps here, but I'm just saying in general. But for us, it has been living a dream in terms of data because we have, I think historically set up a situation where not only do we have the Kent County Health Department, but we also have the Kent ISD and Kent County Administration all working together. All the data staff of those entities working together to pull together the indicators that we're looking at. And when, as you know, we want to make sure children are ready for kindergarten. And so there may be developmental milestones that we look at throughout that time from prenatally all the way to kindergarten. And we will be able to look at that. But as you know, with children, you're starting now, and we have to set this up so that we can look at it over the course of the next 5 years. But when you ask about reports, that really is the exciting part, Commissioner Steck, is that we're going to be able to generate the reports that will show needle movement and how we're changing children as we intervene developmentally early.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Anne Marie or Heather? I don't see any other hands. All right, thank you so much for your presentation today. We really appreciate it. And I want to again thank Commissioner Sparks and Commissioner Skaggs for all their hard work on that as well. So thank you so much. All right, we are moved on to public comment related to agenda items. Do we have any public comment today? Pam's going to check the virtual and also the email. Okay. No hands raised in Zoom? Okay. All right, we are on to item 7, consent agenda, and I'll call on Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the consent agenda of today's date.
Support.
All right. Moved by Commissioner Wooden, support by Commissioner Bolkowski, I believe. Questions or comments on the consent agenda? Don't see any. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Prior to calling this roll, I just want to clarify that we do have a member attending virtually, and state law does not allow for that virtual participation to count for quorum. And so as the roll call goes for quorum purposes, we did have 17 members present for quorum, 2 absent. As I do with any member that is absent, I always call their name in a roll call to ensure that there was no oversight should they have come in and attended the meeting. So I will continue to abide by that practice, and I will call that commissioner's name, though unless he is in this room, that vote will not count. So just so that everybody is clear and understands how the virtual participation is working here. Commissioners Skaggs.
Yes.
This is on the motion to adopt the consent agenda. Wooden,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Bolkowski,
Yes.
Talon,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breivy,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Voorhees, Commissioner Voorhees, Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Jones,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. The consent agenda is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are on to resolutions. And our first one today, I'll call on Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I'd like to move the board passes Resolution 10-8-20-102, acceptance of coronavirus relief funds in place of the August state revenue sharing payment from the Administrator's Office.
Moved by Commissioner Jones, support by Commissioner Melton. Questions or comments on Resolution 102? Don't see any. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 10-8-20-102, Commissioners Skaggs,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Bolkowski,
Yes.
Talon,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breivy,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Voorhees, Commissioner Voorhees, Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Jones,
Yes?
Morgan,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 10-820-102 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to item 8B of our agenda, and I'll call on Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I move the adoption of Resolution 10-820-103, which calls for the approval and allocation of $10,081,818 to local municipalities, Grand Rapids, Kentwood, and the city of Wyoming from the COVID CARES Fund.
Moved by Commissioner Steck, support by
Sparks.
Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments on this resolution? This came out of the CARES Subcommittee. Don't see any hands. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 10-820-103, Commissioners Skaggs,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Talon,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breeby,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Voorhees, Commissioner Voorhees, Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Jones,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 10-820-103 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to 8C, and I will call on Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I'd like to move we adopt 10-820-104, authorization of a winter 2020 dedicated millage property tax levy from the Board of Commissioners and Fiscal Services.
Moved by Commissioner Jones, support by Commissioner Breeby. Questions or comments on Resolution 104? Don't see any. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 10-820-104, Commissioners Skaggs,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Talon,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breeby,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Voorhees, Commissioner Voorhees, Commissioner Ponstein, Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Jones,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 10-820-104 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are on to item 8D of our agenda, and I'll again call on Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I move the adoption of Resolution 10-820-105, which comes from the COVID CARES Allocation Committee for reallocation and assignment of certain funds from the CARES Fund.
Moved by Commissioner Steck, support by Commissioner,
Support by Wooden.
who was it? Hennessy? Was it?
Melton.
Melton? Sorry, between the distance and the masks, my hearing is not as good. All right, moved by Commissioner Steck, support by Commissioner Melton. Questions or comments on Resolution 105? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 10-820-105, Commissioners Skaggs,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Talon,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breeby,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Voorhees, Commissioner Voorhees, Commissioner Ponstein, Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Jones,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 10-820-105 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are on to item 9 of our agenda, which is public comment related to general county matters. So I'll ask Pam if we have any email in the public comment email box or any hands raised. Nothing? Okay, and no hands raised. Okay. We are on to commissioner reports today. Who wants to go first? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to remind the commissioners that I had Tori send out a little update dated September, I think, 23rd through Pam's office telling the commissioners what we're doing with COVID and our activity out at the airport. So we're hovering between 35 and 50%. We're doing better than the national average, so we're hanging in there. And hopefully, with the tourist season coming, that'll improve. But we have to get the business travelers back. So once the business travelers come back, I think it'll be a little better picture. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Commissioner Breve.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. In our DPW meeting last week on October 1st, the board approved construction of phase 1 of the PFAS treatment system at the North Kent landfill. And this will be a system that removes the PFAS from the leachate that goes through the North Kent Sewer Authority. There are high concentrations there. And so this is the first of 2 phases. The next phase will come a little bit later, but this was a $1.3 million program that we funded. And so we're happy to, continue cleansing this area and, making it safe for the residents up there.
Thank you, Commissioner Breve, and for your leadership on that board. Any other official reports today? I don't see, Commissioner Steck.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bolter. Just reporting that the Senior Millage Allocation Committee began its meetings for this year earlier this week. I've kind of forgotten when, but we'll be going into that full in-depth session starting next week over the course of the week. So Commissioners Coleman and Hennessy will be joining me in that team and doing that work.
Great, thank you. Any other reports today? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to miscellaneous. Do we have miscellaneous today? Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Talon for a report.
No, miscellaneous.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thanks. I just wanted to share with my colleagues that the reason I am not present there today is some indirect contact that I've had with someone who has tested positive for COVID. And out of an abundance of caution, didn't want to take a chance on possibly spreading it. I understand all the precautions that are taken, but I think that what we do individually to prevent the spread is also important. So I am not experiencing any symptoms. I am not being tested until someone who I've had contact with has been tested, and those results will be provided tomorrow. So I appreciate your understanding for my not being there and wish I could be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. We wish you well. Any other miscellaneous? Oh, Commissioner, I should see you. You're right in front of me. Commissioner Melton.
Thank you, Chair. I have 3, I think, especially given the climate that our schools have been expected and have worked very hard to get back into some semblance of normal schooling. In Kentwood, we have 3 outstanding reports. Crestwood Middle School, which is right in my district, they just received the Green School highest level, Michigan Green School highest level award, which is called Evergreen. And this is given to eco-friendly schools trying to achieve goals to protect the state's air, land, and animals. They must complete 10 of 20 points. And Crestwood Middle School in March, toward the end of March, so they kept going on even when they weren't in session, they completed all 20. And in my opinion, that is not only impressive for a middle school, that's certainly not a place that I ever think I'd like to go back to, but it gives me a lot of hope for the students and the kids and the young people who are coming up in our stead, who will really be leaders in our country, looking at things that are important. We have a teacher, Wendy Johnson, at the freshman campus, who has just recently been recognized by the National Association of Biology Teachers as one of the top biology teachers in the country. She has her PhD, chooses to teach at freshman campus, and has done a lot of studies in
and I'm not going to get it right, so I'm not even going to try, but things in biology that I wouldn't probably be looking into. And the third one is Discovery Elementary School has been recognized already, although that certainly is something that has been coming, as a state blue ribbon school by the state of Michigan. So great, great, great things are happening in Kentwood.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Melton. Any other miscellaneous today? Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I just want to take a moment, and since this is our first meeting in person for quite some time, to recognize Chair Bolter for the efforts on the subcommittee and leading that for the CARES funding. You know, that came very quickly. We've had $114.6 million to allocate and make a difference in our county and in our communities, and it has. A number of us have had opportunities to deliver some of the checks to our community partners from those funds, and what an incredible, great gift it is and blessing to have that come to our community, because a lot of communities didn't get that. So I am grateful for her leadership and our committee's bipartisan work together to finish that up. We are nearing the end. It has been a lot of effort, and I'm very pleased to have been one of the commissioners on that committee and working with Chair Bolter with that leadership, and really wanted to commend her, because that has not been an easy task. So thank you, Chair Bolter.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other Commissioner Womack?
Yes, I'd like to just add on to what Commissioner Jones said. I'm so glad she brought up the great work that our chair has been doing in the subcommittee, and just with all of the townships and cities and the different requests and the different representatives of all the townships and committees. It has been just historical to watch the work that Chair Bolter has done, as well as our county administrator, Wayman Britt, and our staff, the subcommittee. But as the subcommittee, and we go into our communities and our cities to see what they want, and we come back and we lay it at the subcommittee and we lead a meeting, and that's a lot of homework and a lot of hard work on the chair, administrator, and staff. But once again, Chair Bolter, you have just been tremendous through this. I know every city couldn't get everything they want. Every township couldn't get everything they want. Every commissioner couldn't get everything they want. But I can tell you, my mom had a lot of kids, and some Christmas we were just happy that everybody got something. And I can say that is something that has happened during the COVID-19. So many schools were touched, so many small businesses were touched. So many people were touched when it comes to hotel vouchers. I just can't think of a township or community that was not touched in some way. So I want to thank Chair Bolter, and to our administrator and everybody that does the work when we go home and they turn off the lights in the meeting room. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Womack. Any other miscellaneous today? All right, I just have a couple housekeeping things. Just first want to acknowledge the staff, and especially Al and Pam, and all the work that you guys had to do to scramble to make this happen. We are really trying to abide by the ever rapidly changing laws of the state of Michigan. And so I really want to just hats off. A decision was made on Friday. They rapidly got our CARES meeting together on a Monday morning, and then was able to put this together as well for us. So I think everyone feels safe. We feel secure. We feel like we're able to represent our community in the most effective way that we can. So that is due to you guys and your hard work and Wayman's leadership, and just really want to shout out to the staff on that. Also, I wanted to say to our full board, I'm just so happy to see half your faces, and I'm so happy to be back here. And I can't tell you really what is going to happen, other than I know the legislature is working on some Open Meetings Act legislation as we speak. I'm understanding it moved out of the Senate. If it didn't move out, it will today. We'll go over to the House. There may be some changes, and of course the governor has to sign it. So we may be going back to virtual, not sure, but we will be at the ready to follow the laws. Also want to acknowledge Commissioner Ponstein and his wife Melissa for their 25 years of marriage yesterday and just congratulate them. That's sometimes not an easy task. And then lastly, I just want to give everyone an update on our friend and colleague Harold Voorhees. He did have couple of surgeries in the last couple of weeks and he's doing pretty well. He was in good spirits. His voice was very strong and very happy, and I look forward to hopefully seeing him soon and having him participate, but please keep him in your prayers. With that, I will ask Commissioner Wooden for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we adjourn, subject to the call of the chair, to Thursday, October 22nd of this year, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. for an official meeting.
Support. Moved by Commissioner Wooden, support by Commissioner Coleman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.